Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of All Politics, our local. I'm WSAV now reporter John Dowden. We have a busy night last night after election night. It is Wednesday, November 4th, and after a historic election night, we're being joined, as always, live by WSAV Washington correspondent Kelly Meyer, who spent her whole day yesterday at Biden campaign headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware. Kelly, it was a long night last night, to say the least, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a crazy election day, but some expected that we knew they were going to be counting votes beyond election day. We knew the voting stopped, but the counting continues just due to the enormous amount of mail-in ballots we saw because of the pandemic. So we kind of knew that may be coming. I think we had a heads up, but you never are quite prepared for anything that happens on election day.
Not anymore, honestly, not anymore. So, I mean, you kind of brought up that good point is that a lot of these races are so close and it's coming down to every single vote that's casted is what is they're trying to count to because that will decide the election in a lot of these key swing states. Right now, Georgia is one of those states that they're still counting the votes here. They're looking at a lot of the votes around at the Atlanta suburbs in Fulton County, DeKalb County, around Atlanta because they're thinking that there's some votes there that could go to Joe Biden. And as well could go to John Ossoff, who's facing a really tough Senate race. So Kelly, talk to us a little bit about, why is there such an emphasis and why is there so much attention on Georgia?
Well,
Right.
it's so fascinating just to have Georgia in play for Democrats, a state that's been ruby red for decades. Bill Clinton won there in 1992. That was the last time a Democrat won there. So to even have it in play, Democrats were definitely, surprised about early on. And even Biden came out last night here in Wilmington and mentioned it, saying that, we're still waiting to hear from Georgia as he came out there last night. So to have that there and to have the former president Barack Obama campaigning there in the final few days of the race really is something to say about this 2020 election.
And also, I mean, and that's something I brought up too last night. I was doing analysis of the Senate races here, which we'll touch on really quickly as well, and just kind of talking about the fact that Democrats really were hoping that Georgia would be one of those areas that they could use to flip the Senate as well as this presidential election. We're still right now. It's Wednesday morning when we're recording this, so we're still waiting on some of those results in still from Georgia to see where those races may go. I've been hearing talks about a runoff in that Purdue Ossoff race. In that race, but Georgia, and let me bring this up really quickly before we continue, is Georgia had two senators on the ballot this year. We had two senators on the ballot. We had Kelly Loeffler, who was appointed to fill out the rest of Johnny Isaacsen's term. So she was running to fill out the rest of his term. That race is going to a runoff between her and Democrat Reverend Raphael Warnock. And now this race between Senator David Perdue and John Ossoff, we're still waiting on those results. And so I think, Kelly, you brought up a really good point about the absentee ballots, about a lot of Democratic attention going and being put on the Peach State here. You were at the Biden campaign headquarters all night last night. I'm sure you're freezing, but it's a little bit colder out in Delaware than it is out here in Georgia right now. Tell us, what was the mood? What was the feeling of the night? How were they feeling as, they lost Florida, they lost Texas, but, they're showing, good signs in Michigan and Wisconsin. Tell us what was the feeling like?
Well, early on, we were inside a empty parking lot because they didn't bring in the supporters probably until about 9 or 9:30. I heard from someone who was participating in the drive-in rally saying that they heard in an email around 9 o'clock that they should arrive to the parking lot before 11 and expect something around 11:30. Of course, Biden ended up coming out around 12:30, just for a few brief remarks. But so there wasn't a lot of energy early on in the night, but then it did start filling up, and then you could hear the honking and the cheers as people were in their cars getting excited as we were watching the returns coming back. So they were hearing some of those, but definitely a different energy than what you would see in any other year, obviously due to the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. And also, too, a lot of what we talked about again, a lot of those results, a lot of those races still up for grabs right now because of the counting of the absentee ballots. That's something that's going on here. And something, Kelly, I wanted to also bring up, which what we talked about the last couple of weeks, too, was that Senate race going on in South Carolina with Lindsey Graham and the Democratic challenger, Jamie Harrison. People were saying that this was a race for, Lindsey Graham's political career. And Jamie Harrison brought in the most money out of any Senate candidate in history, and Lindsey Graham was able to fight off that challenge. Kelly,
Mhm.
what are you hearing about that? What does that say about, Lindsey Graham's race and the control of the Senate, which Democrats are really hoping that they could grab onto?
Yeah, I mean, it really deflated Democrats' hopes of taking over the majority in the Senate when they heard that result. They thought Jamie Harrison was going to pull through just with what you said, the amount of money he was bringing in. But despite that, Senator Graham was able to pull ahead. I mean, in the last few weeks, he was, at the front of the table with the confirmation hearing of Judge Amy Coney Barrett. He was using that as a way to also get his message out there and show that he was able to get a Supreme Court justice through the Senate and confirmed and put her on the Supreme Court. And, he was campaigning as a supporter of President Trump. So if people just go down the ballot there in South Carolina, the president won there as well. So that could have something to do with it too. But he did hold on to that to get another 6 year term in the Senate.
Yeah. So Kelly, as the day goes on today, what are you looking at? As the day progresses and as we hear more about some of those results coming in.
We are hearing that we may hear from the former vice president later on this afternoon. We're expecting maybe to hear more from Georgia, Fulton County, the area of Atlanta, to see how those votes were counted and tallied there. That's something the campaign is waiting on before they speak. I believe they also will be waiting for Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I think we will be waiting a few more days. But we might get a better sense later on, but there are still many votes to be tallied. So the Biden campaign is just urging patience. And he said last night to keep the faith. They do think that they are on track to win this. But of course, we don't know yet.
Of course, there's still a lot up in the air, but thank you so much, Kelly, for keeping an eye on all of it and keeping us updated as the day goes on and as the as we keep getting more votes in.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course, you can see more of Kelly's stories on our website. Just go to wsav.com/Washington. You can see previous episodes of All Politics Are Local right now on our website. Just go to wsav.com/All Politics Are Local. Thank you so much again for watching. Stick with News 3, your local election headquarters. I'm John Dowding. We'll see you again next week on All Politics Are Local.